Watch this.
If they could find this virus in you at all, and with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful. But it doesn't tell you that you're sick, and it doesn't tell you that the thing you ended up with really was going to hurt you or anything like that.
Since the H5N1 bird flu outbreak began in late 2020, millions of healthy chickens have been culled in an attempt to prevent spread. The conventional practice involves culling all of the birds in a facility in which the virus is detected. The frequently stated rationale for this practice is that highly pathogenic avian influenza has a mortality rate of 90% of domesticated poultry, often within 48 hours, so that one might as well destroy the entire flock and start over with an entirely new one. Often using inhumane methods such as ventilation shutdown.
Ventilation shutdown is the killing of animals by shutting off vents to basically suffocate animals. Ventilation shutdown plus adds carbon dioxide or heat, which only increases the suffering of the animals.
Or foam depopulation, which involves spraying birds with foam to suffocate them. The U.S. government incentivizes this practice, known as depop, by reimbursing the farmer for all culled birds, but not for birds that die of influenza. Because this has long been the conventional practice, there is zero financial motive to wait and see if the virus is indeed as pathogenic as claimed. Currently, there is an urgent need to conduct research on the alternative practice of waiting to see if some percentage of the flock survives and develops herd immunity. The unnecessary culling of millions of healthy animals can lead to food supply chain collapse, resulting in catastrophic consequences.
Its latest news report, the USDA shows large egg prices around the nation have jumped.
Melbourne shoppers are being told to brace for egg supply shortages for up to a year as the bird flu crisis unfolds.
It's thought it's families with children who are struggling the most. As this graph shows, since April, food insecurity has increased more amongst this group compared to households without children.
Scientific evidence shows that culling entire flocks may not be necessary, as H5N1 doesn't kill every chicken it infects. Instead, flocks should be given a chance to recover and obtain natural immunity against the virus. Studies on this observation method are urgently needed to prevent millions of unnecessary animal deaths. As was recently reported in the New York Times, some animal welfare advocates, pointing to recent outbreaks that were allowed to run their course, question whether killing every bird on an affected farm is even the right approach. When H5N1 hit Harvest Home Animal Sanctuary in California in February 2023, killing 3 birds, the farm's operators steeled themselves for a state-mandated culling. Instead, California agriculture officials, citing a recently created exemption for farms that do not produce food, said they would spare the birds as long as strict quarantine measures were put in place for 120 days. Over the next few weeks, the virus claimed 26 of the farm's 160 chickens, ducks, and turkeys, but the others survived, even those that had appeared visibly ill, according to Christine Morrissey, the sanctuary's executive director. She said the experience suggested that mass cullings might be unnecessary. There needs to be more research and effort put into finding other ways of responding to this virus, Ms. Morrissey said, because depopulation is horrifying and it's not solving the problem at hand. Cattle currently exhibit a very low mortality rate from H5N1, yet unscrupulous actors might push for policies that mandate the culling of infected cows.
Nobody knows how to get rid of
how to get cows to stop farting.
Exactly, or burping. And so there is artificial meat. If it was a 50% reduction, then you could ignore, okay, leave the cows alone. But because we're trying to avoid the temperature continuing to go up, you do need to go to zero. We need to change cows, just cows alone.
How are we going to do that?
Well, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
We know what's next. We're going to have zoonotic influenza illness. So, put your tray tables in the upright position and your and your seats forward and your seatbelts on, because this is unfortunately a new wave of pandemics is going to be upon us.
I'm obviously most worried about bird flu, but in the laboratory, I could make it highly infectious for humans in months, because it's been published, the 5 amino acids that I need to change. And so I don't think that research should be done. That's the real threat. That's the real biosecurity threat, that these university labs are doing these bio experiments that are intentionally modifying viruses. And bird flu, I think, is going to be the cause of the great pandemic.
Naturally occurring HPAI, H5N1 viruses cause a reported almost 60% mortality in humans, which triggered a concern, understandably, clearly, that if you give a gain of function of a pathogenic virus to make it more transmissible, that's a whole different story. There were studies done by 2 NIAID-funded investigators, Ryan Fouché and Yoshi Kawaoka, in which H5N1, a strain from Indonesia and a strain from Vietnam, were altered in a gain of function, either by direct mutation or by reassortment. And by passage in ferrets, the mammal model for this virus for humans, there was an increase in fact, a development of aerosol transmissibility in a mammal, which this particular virus did not have. Because of that, this triggered concern. NSABB recommended that the general conclusions highlighting the novel outcome be published, but the manuscript did not include methodologic and other details that could enable replication of the experiments by those who would seek to do harm. What also was discussed that might accidentally be released.
We should be testing every cow weekly. You can do pooled PCR.
We do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
The Gates Foundation gave $9.5 million to UW-Madison and principal investigator Yoshihiro Kawaka to modify H5N1 viruses to preferentially recognize human-type receptors and transmit efficiently in mammals. The current USDA Deputy Chief of Staff is a former Gates Foundation Senior Program Officer for Private Sector Partnerships. Her former employer wishes to transition meat consumption to 100% synthetic. In 2023, the USDA approved Bill Gates-backed laboratory-made chicken created by Upside Foods. Serial passage, gain of function, of H5NX clade 2.3.4.4 viruses in mallard ducks is currently underway at the USDA Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory in Athens, Georgia. We are highly suspicious that H5N1 clade 2.3.4.4b, genotype B1, may have leaked or was released from the USDA Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory, leading to the current outbreaks.
Drop your comment down below and let me know what you think about this.